Four very articulate voices. I'm joined by Jayant Sinha live, Member of Parliament, Lok Sabha, BJP, former Union Minister, and Amit Mitra, former Finance Minister and Economic Advisor to the West Bengal CM, who I spoke to earlier. But first, I will come to you, Jayant. First, let's go to Amit Mitra. Since I spoke to him earlier, let's ask him a question. You can then respond to that, Jayant Sinha. Dr. Mitra, the government says it's given us a budget, or the Prime Minister says it's a blueprint for Amrit Kaal, for the future, for 2047, fiscal consolidation, potential for high growth with high capex outlays and possible greater consumption because of the new tax slabs. Do you believe that this budget, therefore, is one where the opposition doesn't have too much to crib about for once?
No, I think let me go to the brass tacks. What is the situation on the ground level to which the budget would have had to address? Unemployment, 3.7 crore people are unemployed. That's 37 million people. On top of that, if you take discouraged workers, those who are not looking for jobs, they're called discouraged workers. It works out to 5 crores of people. 50 million people in the country were unemployed. Unpaid family labor has increased and wages have fallen. What has the budget done for the critical people in the country who are suffering today? That's my first point. The second issue that I would like to raise is 100 days work. The Manrega has often been a place for those who are not able to find jobs. What happened to Manrega? You'd be surprised to know that the budget in the revised estimate had allocated 89,000 crores. They have cut it back to 60,000 crores. So even those who would be able to take protection or safety net in Manrega, their budget has been cut by 29,000 crores in one sweep. Now I come to my third point. These people who are unemployed, looking for jobs, families in distress, what are they facing? They are facing inflation. Cereal inflation, 13.79%. Milk, 8.51%. Contrary to what people may tell you, these are all official data. Spices, 20% inflation. Fuel and light, 10.97%. And my last point on this. The largest number of people in this country, aside from those I have cited, is the unorganized sector. They employ 93% of the population, produce 50% of GDP at one time. What has happened to them? I did not hear about the unorganized sector. And you'll be surprised to know that 99.04% of those people in the unorganized sector have no pension, have no social security net, nothing.
Jayant Sinha respond, this is the second opposition voice virtually sort of echoing each other's sentiment, saying not enough done for those who've really been in distress, whether it's MSMEs, the micro small enterprises, whether it's the unorganized sector, whether it is youth looking for jobs. Respond to this criticism that now seems to be underlining what the opposition has to say about the budget.
Thank you very much, Rajdeep, and good evening.
Good evening.
Professor Mitra, of course, is an eminent economist with a lot of practical experience as well as a former finance minister of Bengal. So I have full respect for his views and his opinions, but I must respectfully disagree. As far as Narega is concerned, Narega, of course, is a demand-driven program. It's a guaranteed program. So while we did expect to spend 89,400 crores on it this year, next year the allocation is at 60,000 crores, but that will go up if the demand for it is required. That is the nature of Narega. It is by law that you have to pay people who demand Narega work. So if required in the supplementary demand for grants, more capital will be allocated and Narega will be fully funded. I think the expectation for Narega going down is largely because the employment situation is improving. And so now let me get to the second point about employment that Professor Mitra brought up. Employment is strengthening. The EPFO data shows very clearly that we are creating high quality jobs. The number of EPFO employees has doubled over the last few years to 27 crores right now. And the skilling and training programs that have been outlined in this budget and previous budget are also leading to the generation of high quality jobs. And finally, the dramatic increase in capex that is happening is creating a tremendous number of jobs on the ground, because what we are seeing is that not only are we building roads and highways and airports and railway lines, we are also driving the cement industry, the steel industry, the construction industry. All of these industries are also being driven, and they're all creating good jobs. Again, I can tell you from my own constituency in Hazaribagh district and Ramgarh district, we are building highways, we are building railway lines, we are building power plants. All of that has resulted in tens of thousands of jobs that have been created. So this massive increase in capex, both public sector capex as well as private sector capex, is creating a large number of high quality jobs. In addition, I will say the good news is that private sector capex is also increasing because demand is strong, and of course this budget also provides a big consumption boost. So the combination of all of these moves, the skilling and the training, the growth of the economy, capex, the boost in consumption, all of these are resulting in an increase in employment, a reduction in NREGA requirements, and more high quality jobs for our young people and those who are looking for these jobs.
May I just ask you to amplify on your point where you said that there will be a boost in consumption. There is some element of doubt whether the new tax regime, the rebates that have been given and the new tax slabs actually will translate into greater consumption. The amounts may be much too small for people to actually get into a virtuous cycle of higher demand, higher consumption. Do you believe that will happen? There's so much of confusion over this new tax slab. How many people will actually move from the old tax regime to the new tax regime?
So Rajdeep, I have actually run the numbers. The Honorable Finance Minister in her budget speech laid out clearly that she expects 35,000 crores of additional purchasing power to be put into the hands of the middle class, and they have a high propensity to spend on things that do drive the economy, like cars, like consumer durables, TVs, appliances, smartphones, etc. So 35,000 crores, the Honorable Finance Minister herself has said, is going to be provided to the middle class for purchasing. But in addition to that, I have actually run the numbers, Rajdeep. Today, I had my chartered accountant go through and run many different scenarios for me to show me what would happen if you were a middle class taxpayer going from, let's say, 5 or 6 lakh rupees right up to 20-25 lakh rupees under the old regime with the exemptions and deductions, and the new regimes with the higher exemptions but no deductions and so on. And in every case, somebody that switches to the new tax regime is going to save very significant amounts of money. If you're in the 15-20 lakh range, you're going to save 30, 40, 50,000 rupees a year by doing that. And for that, you can buy a nice TV set, you can buy a nice washing machine and so on. So these are the kinds of consumption drivers that have been unlocked through this budget.
So, Dr. Mitra, the questions that arise, I think what the government is saying is that particularly the large capex outlays, 10 lakh crores, will create will generate this virtuous cycle. Lots of job creation, according to the finance minister, will be created as a result of the kind of capital outlays the government is putting in. They are of a very significant nature.
Yeah, but this is exactly what they said last year. What they called a new coinage they did, is crowding in. The government will spend 7.5 lakh crores, and as a result, it will kickstart the private sector investment. Now, if you go to the brass tacks, what do you find? Officially, government admits that current capacity utilization private sector is only 70%, gone up to 70%. Private sector is not buying machinery, plant and equipment, which is called investment, because there's not enough excess demand. And this capex you're talking about are very long gestation capexes. These are physical things which take time. In the meantime, 50 million people are in distress. You don't even mention them. You don't mention the unorganized sector. You talk about capex. That's the only thing the budget has done. And my submission to you is, this is not, everybody knows. And let me conclude by saying on this point, Atmanirbhar Bharat is a word I heard Do you know that today we have the highest imports from China? How much? 100 billion US dollars worth of imports from China. We are China Nirbhar Bharat. So what are the words about? This is shocking.
You know, Jayant Sinha, someone who's been a banker yourself, we've seen in the past, you gave the corporate sector various benefits a few years ago. Even today, there's a sense that corporate India is still not investing to the extent they should. Yes, there were 2 years of the pandemic, but we haven't seen the animal spirits, the so-called animal spirits of the economy being revived. Why do you believe 2023 will be different to previous years, particularly given the global headwinds that exist? There are still concerns across the world of growth slowing down, of exports have already slowed down. So there are genuine concerns out there, risk factors that surely you cannot ignore.
Given those global uncertainties, the Honorable Finance Minister and the Honorable Prime Minister have pursued exactly the right course, which is to focus on domestic investment and domestic consumption. And that's precisely what is being thought through in this budget and is being proposed in this budget. Now, when it comes to helping vulnerable populations, we have the government that has provided free food grains to 80 crore people for 28 months. We have provided money to farmers through the Kisan Samman Nidhi. We have opened 48 crores Jan Dhan accounts. We have created, almost 10 crore toilets that we have built. So when it comes to supporting vulnerable populations, providing a safety net and social welfare for people who need it, I think our government's record is superior to any other government that has ever ruled India. And of course, all of this has been done through a digitized direct benefit transfer program that ensures that benefits reach people into their own bank accounts. So we've done, I think, a fantastic and historic job in building a social welfare net, a safety net for all Indians. So as far as supporting the vulnerable populations, nobody can criticize us on that. That I think has been absolutely exceptional. Now, obviously, as the Honorable Finance Minister said, in Amrit Kaal, in the next 25 years, we have to build an economy that is both inclusive and empowered. So the inclusive part I just spoke about earlier, which is all the support that we are providing vulnerable populations. But the empowered part is the capital expenditure. It is the production-linked incentive programs. It is dealing with import substitution and ensuring that we are making smartphones, we are making batteries for electric vehicles, that we are making solar panels, that we are amping up our defense production. All of these are vital pillars of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and we have done a terrific job there as well in building up the empowerment part, the productive capacity of India as well, even as we've supported vulnerable populations. And all of that, Rajdeep, has been possible because of deft economic management, betting on growth and delivering that growth and delivering on our promises.
Let's leave it there. Jayant Sinha, Dr. Amit Mitra, again with two very contrasting views on the budget. Appreciate two more articulate voices joining us here on the show tonight. Thank you so much to both of you.